Are you considering adding solar panels to your current home? Or perhaps you're home shopping and you're looking at purchasing a home with panels already on them. Or maybe the new construction community requires solar panels, which we're starting to see more and more of. When it comes to solar panels, it's important to understand how they can affect the buying and selling of real estate. So let's dive into that in today's video. Welcome to the channel. My name is Stephanie Zambo. I'm a local real estate agent and here to be your guide to all things real estate and Northern Colorado. So whether you're packing that moving truck or just doing a little bit of research, please feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I am happy to be a resource to you and look forward to connecting. With over 2 million homes in the US now equipped with solar panels, and that number increasing every day, it's understandable that you may be looking for home options that have solar panels on them. However, solar panels can be one of the most tricky and complicated thing from both the selling and the purchase side. So if you have solar panels on your home and you're thinking about selling, or you are looking to purchase a home with solar panels, we're going to go over the pros and cons together today. Now, if you are a seller with solar panels and you are planning on paying them off at closing, fantastic. That does add value to your home, and an appraiser will likely assign value to solar panels. However, that is only if they are paid off or you plan on paying them off at the time of closing. Otherwise, they're actually considered a debt against the property and can affect how the buyer qualifies for the purchase of your home. This goes for both solar panel leases and ownership. So regardless of how you're financing the panels, if a buyer is looking to purchase your home and they are not paid off, or you're not planning to pay them off, the buyer is now going to have to assume the lease or ownership loan of your solar panels. And of course, that's going to affect their debt to income ratios. They are now considering a new debt that will need to be taken on along with the purchase of the property. So be sure to have all of the information up front in terms of what your monthly payments are, when the estimated payoff date is, what your current interest rate is on said lease or ownership loan. And you're also going to want to chat with both the solar company and the company financing your solar panels as to what the transfer process is. So yes, it can add value to your property, but usually that is only if you're paying those babies off. Of course, there is the benefit of energy cost savings. If you have great sunshine, a good array of solar panels, you may be covering your electric bill in its entirety. As a matter of fact, you may be putting some additional energy towards the grid and getting a small payback or banking energy for the future bills. Those are all the benefits and why people are going solar. However, if you are still receiving an electric bill and you're paying for the solar, you are going to have to explain that to a future buyer of why there is a benefit to having the additional cost of solar panels. Now let's dive into some of the cons. So added value, lower energy cost. There are some benefits to solar, but as a seller, there can be significant installation costs and in addition to your monthly costs. And perhaps you are paid off the solar panels, you're reaping the benefits of a lower energy bill or no energy bill at all, and you believe that it's just going to be very easy to transfer these to the new buyer. Well, that might not be the case. Even if you do not have a loan or a lease on the solar panels any longer, there still may be a fee for the transfer of warranties. They may require an inspection before transferring that to the buyers. And another piece of it is, how old's your roof? If you have to get a roof replacement during the time that you are selling for whatever reason, or if you're under an insurance claim, the chances are is that the solar panel company will charge you to both remove and reinstall the panels. And that may come with some additional updates that are required. A lot of times there's tech updates, and it can elongate and complicate the home buying and selling process. So if you are in need of a new roof, you know you're going to be selling your home. If you have recent hail damage, I actually had this happen with a client of mine. They had hail damage. They were working on getting a claim, getting a new roof. They were a little bit laissez-faire about it. It took a little bit of time. Then all of a sudden, they're under contract. They're waiting for the roof to get done. They have to reach out to the solar panel company to remove the panels in order to keep the warranty in place. And they are booked out for several weeks. Then what happened is they had to pay half of the fee for the uninstallation, then wait till the uninstall happened, then pay a second fee for the second half for the reinstallation of the panels. And that took almost the span of a week. And then on top of it, the solar panel company had a rule that they will not put panels back on a new roof until it has had time to seal for 2 weeks. So you can understand that if you are under contract, how that can really complicate things if you're having to extend the timeline. I mean, let's face it, when you're buying and selling, a lot of times buyers are coming up against a lease, or they're selling their current home, or they're in a position where they need to move in on time. Now, of course, in real estate, everything can be fluid. You can work through it. You can negotiate with the buyer or the seller. In this case, the buyers were able to extend the closing timeline, closed after the panels were put back on. We verified they were working and all was well. But that's just an example of how it can extend the buying and selling timeline and complicate the home selling and buying process. Now, I briefly touched on the idea that a buyer will, if you're not paying off the solar panels, the buyer will have to assume the lease or the cost of the loan for the panels. Now, what they'll have to do is they're going to have to apply to the bank and determine if they are qualified to assume the lease or the loan in addition to the mortgage. So the lender is going to have to work alongside this solar panel company. And a lot of the time, actually majority of the time, the bank lending is not the solar panel company. So you're dealing with several different parties and different communication, which can further complicate the process. So be sure to have all of this organized. Be sure to have the contact information available, applications that the buyer needs to fill out, so that way you can get this process started sooner than later, because the buyer ultimately will have to qualify for the solar panels in order to make the purchase, or you might have to pay them off at closing, or the buyer just gets to walk away from the transaction. So it's very important to have all this information up front and start the solar panel transfer process very early on in the under contract sale process. Let's also go over the tax incentives. So a majority of the time when you get solar panels on your home, you are entitled to certain tax incentives. Now, with those incentives, it's going to vary from state to state, so be sure to talk with the panel providers as well as your CPA and figure out what that looks like. But real life example, I had some sellers get panels on their home. They had no energy bill and they had received an upfront tax incentive over $12,000. Now, they had just got the panels on their home that year and decided to sell their home. Well, what ended up happening was they had already received that upfront tax incentive in the purchase price of their panels. And so therefore, even though they haven't technically received the tax incentive, because that is something that goes into effect in, you're always filing taxes in arrears, they were hit with paying back that upfront tax incentive to the solar company prior to selling. So all of a sudden, they went from selling their home. They had only been in it a short amount of time. It was fairly tight margins. And they ended up having to come up with an additional $12,000 to pay off these panels, because otherwise it was a loan, or it was a lien against the home, and they wouldn't have been able to sell it. So that is something you also need to discuss. If you're receiving any upfront tax incentives with the installation of your panels, be sure to be asking these questions and make sure you're considering your timelines. If you're going to be getting solar panels and you plan to stay in the home for an extended period of time, maybe through until they're paid off, then solar panels may be a really good option for you. But if it's any chance you might be moving in the next few years, then consider the potential costs that might come up with the transfer of solar panels. Now, this is not meant to scare you from getting solar panels. I am very much for alternative energy sources and going green, but when it comes to the real estate side of things, solar panels often make a transaction much more complex and cause a lot of stress for clients. I have walked a lot of clients through purchasing and selling with solar panels. And just about every time, because every solar company and bank is different, it causes some degree of challenges within the transaction. So if you do already have solar panels, don't worry. Work with a real estate agent that is experienced in dealing with panels so that they can help you gather all of the information up front and be prepared, both on the buy and the sell side. Those are just some things to consider when it comes to buying or selling real estate with solar panels. If you have further questions about that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource to you. And again, don't stop this from going green if it's something you truly desire doing. Thanks for tuning in to my video today. Again, my name is Stephanie Zambo here in Northern Colorado, here to be your guide to all things real estate and Northern Colorado. So whether you're packing that moving truck or you're just doing a bit of research, call, text, or email me anytime, and I look forward to connecting with you. Oh, and hit the subscribe button.